Well, hello there. I'm Tatiana Volk, the GM Witch, and today we're going to be using the deck of stories to prep a random adventure request. So originally I was going to do a mystery mug adventure prep series starting today, but because I had so much fun unboxing and reviewing the deck of stories and I absolutely love how it kind of turned out, I decided for the first adventure prep video that I would give these guys a shot and try and work them out. Admittedly, I started putting in my notes based off of the test pull that I did in the review video and realized that this was so much fun and I should just go ahead and film this video instead so that you guys can join me in this process and I can tell you how I work through some of the more specific details and what I decide to keep in and don't, to hopefully give you some ideas if you decide to do something like this as well. Plus, I thought it would be fun if you can try and put something together yourself using the same prompts and let me know in the comment section down below what you would do instead. All right, let's get into it. So we have our GM notebook, the deck of stories Genesis box, and I have all of the expansion packs, but I don't feel like I'm going to be using them for this. We'll probably just go with the regular deck. Okay, let's go ahead and shuffle. So I don't think you have to pick the character card at random, but I think it might be fun. We can always redraw if it doesn't really fit. I'm going to draw these. Okay. So admittedly, I feel like this is probably the order that I'm going to do it in. It worked out pretty well. So we have, you're delivering a chest, something inside starts moving. A dome encloses a town with no discernible way in or out. And the oracle you seek is a grotesque monster. It demands an offering. So I feel like you're delivering something to this town. Once you get there, you get stuck in and you have to figure out a way to get out by finding this oracle. The connection to whatever is in the box may or may not be what triggers this or helps you get out, who knows. And then we have an ominous tension fills the area. This is very fitting for lots of different parts of this. And then this character could relate to the town that you're in. Okay, now before we get too far into this, I do want to mention that I will not be going too deep into the weeds on specifics. I will flesh things out more, give myself some ideas. I don't want to figure out specific stats necessarily because some of that information might change depending on the level of my group for whenever these get dropped in there or added to the game. And then although I will be adding some ideas in certain areas, all of that stuff is subject to change depending on the actual game that I end up playing. But with that disclaimer out of the way, I guess let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is I want to write down each of the prompts and then kind of brainstorm around those ideas. I'm going to be coming up with a couple of ideas for different things instead of gearing it around my players in the campaign that I'm running. Now, as I'm working on the ideas for each of the cards, I do want to consider or think about the other cards in addition so that I'm working everything together and kind of playing off of each of the prompts so that I can make something more cohesive. So in this case, the questions for this prompt are, should you open it and where is it being delivered? Now, the where is it being delivered I think ties in very well with our Act 2 card, which is a dome encloses a town with no discernible way in or out. I'd like to believe that these two things are connected. It's also possible that they could be connected even more than that. Perhaps when you deliver the item, whatever is in the box is the source of the dome closing over the town, or the person uses it as a way to make that happen, and our PCs have to find a way to undo that. Perhaps there is some sort of curse on the town, and whatever is in here is not supposed to be in that town or in that area. Perhaps that is the reason why the item starts moving. The closer they get to the town, the more the item resists, and once it ends up in a certain location, it triggers off some sort of event which causes the dome to happen. So just trying to figure out how these are connected and different ways that this can fit into this adventure or this quest. Okay, so at this point, I'm thinking that whatever the PCs were hired to deliver is a cursed object. So the person that hired them is trying to seek some sort of revenge. So as they get close to their destination, the object inside, which is under the ruse of a family heirloom with a minor luck charm or something on it, so that they're not suspicious of it being magical, it starts to move and be affected the closer they get to their destination, which should hopefully put off some sort of alarms for our players. Now, once they get there, some sort of effect happens, and I'm thinking that the dome is a counter spell to the curse or the magical effect that happens within the package. So it's not the effect. That is just what the location does to protect it so that it doesn't affect the area outside of it. So I have to figure out what is that spell or curse or what cursed item, like what does it actually do? So, working a little bit more into the story for the first arc. Okay, so I am currently hitting a block in my design or development because I have a couple of ideas and I'm not entirely sure which direction I want to go in, and I'll kind of expand on that. So my idea for this was that the item that the PCs have is cursed. When they get to the town, it sets off some sort of effect, and the temple of the town puts out a counter spell or whatever to contain that effect, which causes the dome that our PCs now need to work at in a time-sensitive manner to figure out how to save the town and bring down the dome. I did have a couple of ideas of like what can happen to that, one of them being a Groundhog Day, another adventure type thing that I've heard before, so basically a ripoff of an existing idea out there. The other things that I was able to kind of think about were all sort of plague related. So the item could basically explode and expose everybody to some sort of plague. One of them could be an aggression type one, so that everybody in the town starts becoming very aggressive and they basically get more and more and more angry and start fighting and eventually kind of like kill each other off if the PCs don't stop it, don't like fix and find a solution to it. And then the other one could be just simply like plague, some sort of disease or whatever. That was some ideas that I ended up having. The problem that I have with that though is that because we are at the tail end or possibly still just in the middle of a pandemic herself, not super excited about the plague idea. I think it could be a cool concept and would probably be interesting to play in like 10 years from now, but I don't necessarily know if that's something that I want to focus on at the moment as somebody who hasn't left her house in ages, you know. Because of that, I'm kind of thinking of having it be that the cursed item or the item that the PCs are carrying, actually the effect itself is the dome, right? Instead of that being a counter effect to keep in the effect of the cursed item, it's just that once they get there, it traps the town in the dome and the characters have to find a way to bring it down. I don't think that's as interesting as my original idea, but it is an option. Admittedly, the way I'm doing this is I'm writing down different ways that I can go about it. So like different ideas, different options for it. so that if I end up in a situation where I want to use this, I can read through my different ideas and then tailor it specifically towards my campaign or my group or whatever, instead of feeling like I am stuck with one idea. Okay, so I got a little bit distracted, but I should be back on it. I'm stuck slightly at the what happens after the dome comes up. So I'm thinking our target is going to be this guy, Arthax Delmaroth, a dragonfolk character. So he's the reason why this dome has popped up. He's the one that the cursed item was intended for. So you're with this character when the curse art item goes off and brings up the dome. And then I was thinking it might be fun to kind of have something in between this and the oracle. So this may be bad and it may not work, but I thought it would be a good idea to pick another card. We're going to grab a card. And this one says, you enter a bazaar where people sell new items from both the past and the future. Okay, that works. All right, yeah, that works perfectly. So that can happen before, although this could also be how we find, no, but I've already written that. Okay, so in this case, we'll have the characters be directed. I don't know if Arthax is going to tell them they need to see someone, like encrypted, be like, oh, you have to go to blah, 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 and they're directed through the bazaar to find the person, and that's kind of how they get to the oracle. Or that could be how they find whatever it is that they need to offer the oracle, right? Because the oracle asks for some sort of offering. And actually, okay, I was going to have this ominous tension be connected to when they see the oracle, but in all honesty, it might be nice if it's connected to the whichever booth they have to go through to get to the oracle. So it kind of hints at the fact that this oracle that they're going towards may be questionable. Like, they'll be able to help our PCs with whatever they need, but in this case, they're going to have to offer something up. I don't want it to be like clear. Another thing is he could be the one that's going to see the oracle. Perhaps he says the oracle's name, you know, whatever his name is, and he's like, oh god, I have to see so-and-so, and then starts like running off. And the characters can try, our PCs can try to chase him, right? So just keep up with him and get directions that way. Or they will have to ask around and, you know, be told, oh, you have to see this person, and this person be like, what are you looking for? This, that, and the other. So that could be how we go about it. Okay, now that we've gotten to the oracle, I figured that it might be fun to look through some monster manuals to see if we can get any inspiration for what this might end up being. I might end up doing my own twist on an existing monster, make something up, use an image in here. Specifically, they call for a grotesque monster, and I don't really feel like there's much to that. I will say, when I am actually prepping for a game, I tend to use cards. So item cards, monster cards, spell cards. I'm a big fan of cards in general. I will say the series of cards, the creators of these, it kind of sucks. This one's pretty good. I think almost all of the cards, if not all of the cards, have images, but I was looking into getting more from this series, and apparently there's a good chunk that just don't have photos for the cards, and it kind of defeats the purpose to me to not have the image of the monster that I have the stats for. It's still useful in terms of stats, but because of that, I've been hesitant to actually purchase those cards. That being said, since it's just GM notebook prep, I'm going to try and find the monsters in the monster manual and then just write down what page it's on. So if it's in the monster manual, I tend to do MM page whatever. I haven't really used anything from Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, so I don't know what my abbreviation for this will be, if it's just going to be like MTF or something. I'll figure it out if that's what I use. Okay, so this is what I had in mind from the description. So this might work. It's a very, very intelligent creature, the Sybarex, and it doesn't 100% make sense for it to be wherever it is, wherever the story is taking place, but you do kind of go down, I'm thinking. So like you find one of the booths, someone's kind of manning it and they have this thing. I was also thinking of having whatever it is, the Oracle being a kind of like the mastermind of things. It's interesting that this creature is so smart. It's very wise, very smart, very charismatic, but it's chained up. What I'm thinking, it can also be a lich, a hag coven. I was thinking it could be a djinn or an ifriti. I don't really know how those are pronounced, but kind of like genies. I was thinking that if it was that they could have been like cursed or stuck in some unfortunate appearance. Okay, so I will definitely say that this one has more of what I'm looking for in it. I think I might go with these guys because they are neutral and they are a little less crazy in advance for the players, and I feel like it would make more sense. They also kind of fit the Oracle vibe, and they do still have not fully like grotesque, but I don't know, they do fit the Oracle vibes. But I wrote them all down, and now I just need to flesh out a little bit more of what's going to happen now that they talk to the Oracle and what's going to be demanded of them. Okay, so I have wrapped it up. So I figured that for the Oracle situation, that there are a couple of options that might happen. First one being if we were going with a time-sensitive situation like one of the plague ideas that I had before, the Oracle would simply request some small offering and then give the players the location of the ingredients that they need to fix whatever it is. And you know, the spell, incantation, whatever. They'll give them the tools that they need to reverse whatever aggro effects are happening to the townspeople or sickness that is taking over everyone. And at each location, there will be some sort of relevant monster type thing that the players will have to fight to get those ingredients. And then they'll simply bring it back, do their thing, and then go to the temple to get the dome removed, because in that scenario the dome was caused by the temple of the town, so they have to fix the situation and prove to the temple or whoever runs the temple, the god or the goddess, that there is no more risk so the dome could come down. So that's that scenario. The second one is if the dome going up was the effect of the parcel that they brought in, the cursed item. If that's the scenario and it's not a time-sensitive situation, then I thought that perhaps there could be one of the more evil oracles who can is powerful enough to easily be able to bring down the effect of the dome themselves, but want the players to either give them something very, very valuable, so you can put this to a group that has a lot of really valuable items like later down the road, or this can lead into a completely different quest or adventure. So this part of it would basically be wrapped up. They get to the Oracle and now they have to either sacrifice something of their own or do a more difficult additional quest, which I'm not going to try and figure out in this instance because theoretically I would tie it into something similar to this. So that's what I have for our Deck of Stories adventure quest. Now it is pretty open, up in the air, easy for me to change and do things based off of the games that I'm actually playing. If I was to try and make this into a adventure module or something, I would of course make it more specific and have things be written out. It would probably be a lot more information than this. Anyway, that wraps up this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, trying something new. If you have any suggestions or requests, do let me know down below in the comment section. Include this emoji to let me know that you made it this far and to let me know that you're interested in this and to help boost the channel and the video and all of that good stuff. And subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I am trying to put out 1 to 2 videos a month, and I really appreciate all of the support. So I guess that wraps this up, and I will see you in the next one. Until next time, bye!